You're listening to the Zach Gelb Show on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey.
What a fun conversation a few moments ago with Dan Hawkins. I always love when you get a coach that just took a new job and they're right in the middle of trying to find some players and recruit. Those are always fun interviews when you're able to get them on the air. 609-919-9200 is the number. We go from one really intelligent football mind to another, and that's the former Penn State and NFL lineman. That's Brandon Noble, who's always great when he comes on our show, and he joins us right now. Brandon, what's happening, my friend?
Not much, man. Bracing for a wonderful weekend of football and raking some leaves.
Okay, I love it. That's right. You're a family man, so you got to take care of all the needs at home and the football.
My family doesn't help me rake the leaves. I got to figure out how that all works, man.
Well, how old are your kids?
Old enough to rake. I got a 15-year-old son who's bigger and stronger than me now, so it's time to put him to work. Unfortunately, they all want to get paid for it, and I'd rather do it myself at this point. No, so they help. I'm just kidding. I got them out there 2 Saturdays ago, but then they realized that all the leaves weren't down off the trees yet. And so we've got to do one more roll this weekend.
I hear your son is big and strong, like you say. Is he playing football, and if so, what position?
Yeah, Connor is he's a tight end, outside linebacker, defensive end at Downing Town East. He played freshman football this year. And then my youngest son, Jack, he's 11. And he plays Pop Warner football. He's offensive tackle and a defensive end. So it's fun, man. I'm still knee deep in football, man. I can't get away from it.
So what is it like for you to see your kids play? And when you go to their games, are people like, oh my God, that's Brandon Noble, former NFL player?
You know what? Mostly no, because of what I've lived here. I've lived in Chester Springs for 10 years now, and I think that the novelty is worn off. The other thing is obviously most people here are Eagles fans, and so that whole Cowboy Redskins thing, if anything, they throw things at me. But no, it's gotten better. Mostly it's the Penn State recognition, but it's fun. Look, I love the game. The game was really, really good to me, has been good, and is still good to me. And so I enjoy watching the boys play. I think there's a lot of life lessons they get from it. And so it's fun. It's nerve-wracking, though. I mean, it's harder for me, especially with Connor, my oldest, because I coach Jack, who's my youngest son. So, I'm kind of on the field and involved in the game. But with Connor, I just sit in the stands now. And that's hard, man. That's really hard to do. It's hard to – number one, it's hard to be quiet. And number two, sometimes it's just hard to be dad. Connor will come home, and I'll be like, hey, do you want dad or coach right now? And usually we try and stick with dad, if you know what I mean.
Well, that's good. When the coach calls a bad play, does Brandon Noble scream in the stands?
I keep it down. My wife, Mary Kate, is pretty good about punching me in the ribs if I start getting a little agitated. I do recall one game this year. So Connor, he's a pretty good tight end, and he kind of is one of those kids that if you just kind of throw it up to him, he usually catches it. And they were really struggling, and finally they threw the ball downfield to him. He caught it, for 30, 40 yards. And I was just kind of like, finally, like I wanted to be, stand up and yell, keep doing that. But it's terrible. I mean, it's terrible. Like I hated that when I coached. Like I hate hearing that in the background. And so, but I'm a dad too. You know what I mean? So it tears you right down the middle when you've kind of done what I've done with football, and then to watch and be, powerless on the sideline while your son's playing. It's an interesting feeling.
Love it. Brandon Noble with us right now on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920 The Jersey. I look back at your Penn State career. 94, you guys were 12-0, and 96, you were 11-2. So you know what it's like to be in it late. And I know the circumstances were a bit different back then. What do you remember from those times back then, 94 and 96?
Well, I think it's interesting. In 94, obviously, we went 12-0. We won the Rose Bowl. And we got, for lack of a better term, screwed out of a national championship. And the system was different then. And I think that we were one of the catalysts for kind of rolling into the BCS, which then eventually turned into the college football playoff system. And I think that, honestly, this weekend, depending on what happens on Tuesday, Penn State could, again, kind of maybe be the catalyst to, or whoever wins the Big Ten championship game. If they get left out, I think that it's gonna spur some change, and I hope they don't. I hope whoever wins that makes it in. But it's fun, man. I mean, that's what you want. I unfortunately was on some really bad football teams in the NFL, and in December and November, when you're playing football for nothing, it's hard. So to be able to be in the mix, to have something really to play for, at the end of the season when you're beat up and you don't know how you're going to get up in the morning and go again. It's pretty incredible. And same thing, my senior year, we were really fortunate. If we hadn't fallen apart against Iowa at home, Tim Dwight returned a punt on us. We lost to Iowa. I mean, we'd have been, 11-1 rolling out of it and an opportunity to maybe go play in a championship game or for the national title that year. But we ended up at the Fiesta Bowl and played Texas, and it was a great experience. But it's fun. I mean, that's what you want, right? You want to be in the mix at the end for an opportunity to win a championship.
You know, one team is going to get screwed this weekend, whether it's Washington or whether it's the Big Ten championship, the winner of that's what's going to happen. One of these teams aren't going to get in, and there's just not enough spots, because I can make the argument for Ohio State. I think Ohio State should be in the college football playoff. I have a feeling, and this is just a guess, that the college football playoff committee will go with the Big Ten champion, but who knows, because I'd feel bad for those Washington kids if they win tonight and don't get in. Coaching is key, though, when you have all those emotions and you have a team that gets screwed. You felt like your team got screwed in '94. How did Coach Paterno handle that situation back then?
Well, there's some parallels there, man, because Miami, Nebraska played the night before, right? So,
oh, wow.
so we watched that, right? We watched that game. And basically, in the hotel, kind of getting ready to go play the Rose Bowl the next day. And they basically gave the national championship to Nebraska right there. I mean, it was like, it was really, it was weird. I mean, you were just kind of like, wow, that just happened. And so the next day, Joe actually didn't really, I mean, he was just like, let's just go play, let's go win. He was always, limit distractions, stay focused, stay poised, control what you can control. And at the end of the day, we went out and, we beat up Oregon pretty good. But it was a weird locker room afterwards, Zach, man. It was bizarre. I mean, it was fun, right? But there was this kind of feeling of, oh man, 12-0 and you're not going to get it, or even a share of it. Because at that point in time, I mean, I don't know, a lot of people may or may not remember this. Sometimes they would just split it. Like the AP would give it to somebody and the coaches would give it to somebody, but everybody gave it to Nebraska this year. It was a kind of a bittersweet moment. It really was.
Now, be honest with me. If there was Twitter around in 1994, what would Brandon Noble tweet when that decision was made?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure Twitter out. I've got my, but it would have been. I know that it wouldn't have been very long, and I know that Joe probably wouldn't have liked it. So it was, it's tough. I mean, and to control your emotions at 18, 19, 20 years old, is hard. And when you're in a situation where you've done everything you're supposed to do and you've done it all right, and then it doesn't, because of some arbitrary decision made by some people that really aren't around, you get hosed out of an opportunity. And I really think that eventually the world of college football is going to have to just accept the fact that you can't just do 4. Again, it was a step in the right direction, but you can't just do 4. You got to open it up. Look, FCS level does it. Division II does it. Division III does it. Let's not lie about it. The only reason the big boys don't do it is because of money and bowl games. So just continue to time in, even if it's 10 teams. I mean, if you get the top 10 teams in the country, all 5 of the conference championships, pick 5 at large, give 2 guys a bye, run it through that. At least then there's not going to be that, no one's really going to get upset if the number 11 team is left out of the playoffs, right?
I think you're right, but here's the thing now. Also remember, with all the concussions and everything that you know now, you have to watch out for the safety. What I would propose is I would maybe eliminate the conference championship games because, like you see, that conference championship may be meaningless if Penn State wins it on Saturday night or if Wisconsin wins it. Maybe you just make an 8-team playoff and you take away the conference championship game, and you should be able to pick the 8 teams, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Again, I agree. I just think they need to do something, right?
I agree.
They need to do something because when you start talking top 4, that's such, you don't know. The number 5 could be it. And there's always that, because of the way that college football is set up, there's always going to be those questions. So, yeah, I think that if you can get to that 8 to 10 team range and play, and again, look, I coached at the Division II level for a while, and we played into the playoffs, and we would get pretty deep in it at Westchester. And those kids were no worse for wear. I mean, I played 16, 20 games in the NFL, and that was without the playoffs because I was on bad football teams. And now I can't walk some mornings, but everything else is okay.
All right, let's get into the game coming up this weekend. And by the way, let me just remind everyone listening right now, you could listen to the game, Big Ten Championship, right here on Fox Sports 920 The Jersey with coverage beginning at 7:45. I think it comes down to how Penn State will be able to solve this Wisconsin defense. How will that offense be able to do that?
Well, it's going to be a challenge. Look, the Badgers defense, I love Wisconsin is like my second favorite Big Ten team. I love the way they play football. When you watch their front seven play, man, that D-line and those linebackers, they are aggressive, they are physical, they are fast. It is old school smash mouth. We are going to beat you up at the line of scrimmage. And I think that when you look at that and you look at Penn State and you look at how banged up our O-line is, and you look at, what's Barkley's real health? How's that ankle feeling? Those are the kinds of things that to me that's going to make the difference in the game, right? Can that O-line handle that front seven of Wisconsin? And does Joe Moorhead, what does he do to help kind of mask some of those holes and mask some of those issues that they have up front right now? And I think that'll be a really big key part of it is what kind of game plan do they go into it with? Are they able to run the ball effectively? And if they can run the ball, it doesn't have to be great. Barkley doesn't have to have 150 yards. McSorley doesn't have to have 100 yards, but they just got to be able to loosen that front seven up a little bit, tighten them up a little bit, take a couple shots, and just stay balanced. But it's going to be tough. I mean, look, I got a ton of respect for Wisconsin and the way they play ball. Always have, and it's going to be a huge challenge for the Nittany Lions.
Offensive line is very key. I could tell you as a Temple alum, as you know, we saw what happened last year when Penn State didn't block the Temple defensive front. I'll throw that in there for you, and I know that the outcome was different this year. I get it, Brandon. But that offensive line, what's the biggest difference from last year to this year with that O-line?
Honestly, it's two things, and it's maybe three. All right, so the first one is you've got some young guys in there that have played really well. You've also got some guys, as that group is kind of molded and come together. But the two biggest things to me, honestly, Zach, are, number one, they hired Coach Limegrover from Minnesota, who's the O-line coach there. And the second thing is they hired Joe Moorhead from Fordham to be the offensive coordinator. And the style and the way that those guys coach, the fundamentals, the technique, the little tiny details that Coach Limegrover kind of has brought to that room, the man's a miracle worker. And then the other thing is, the way that Joe calls a game. I mean, look, Joe is a quarterback, but he's an O-lineman at heart, and he likes to run the football. He likes to get those guys going forward and moving and smashing people because that's what they want. So I think that, honestly, those are the two biggest things. I think it falls down to coaching, and Coach Moorhead and Coach Limegrover have done an amazing job, and they were great hires by James Franklin this offseason, and that's made the biggest difference in the season in general.
Since we have you here, you did coach Temple for a year. You coached the defensive line. You know Phil Snow. I'm going to be at that game tomorrow, Navy-Temple. It's going to be a fun game with two programs that have a lot of respect right now with the coaching jobs of Ken Niumatalolo and Matt Rhule. How does Temple try to stop that triple option? Because it's going to be tough tomorrow.
It's going to be, they're walking into a buzzsaw. And you mentioned Phil Snow, the defensive coordinator at Temple. To me, one of the best in the business. I've been around this game for a long time, and that year working with Phil, I learned more about defense in those few months that I was there than I maybe did in the 9 years I was in the NFL.
Why is that?
He's so detail-oriented. I mean, it's the tiny, tiny little things. I became a better coach, even though I stopped coaching, because I was with Phil. And his defense is just the detail, the minute little detail that he brings to it, is incredible. And the guy's been around forever. I mean, look, he's seen everything, and so, he's a really, really good coach. And I remember going and we played Army that first year that Matt's staff was at Temple, and the defense that he put in was really good to stop that triple option, and we did. But here's the two keys to me to Temple winning, right? Number one is they have to win on first down on defense, which means they have to keep Navy in the second and long, third and long situation. Navy right now is averaging like 6 yards a play. They've only punted twice in November or something like that. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's right.
If you go 6 yards a pop twice, that's a first down, right? So basically their thing is they have to play great, disciplined, tough football and stop them on first down. And, I mean, the other thing, the big thing that you'll know as the game goes on, Temple's defenders can't be on the ground. Right? They can't be down. They can't get cut. They can't get cut at the second level. They have to stay on their feet. They have to play assignment football, tackle the guy they're supposed to tackle. When you play the triple option, everybody has a man that they're supposed to tackle. And you tackle that guy whether he has the ball or not, because the one time you don't, he's got it. And that's the key to me this week is staying in front of the chains, right, so keeping them in second and third and long, not getting cut, right, and then just playing great assignment football.
It's natural instinct just to think about it that Temple was in the championship game last year and lost. I know you don't need any extra motivation at this stage of the season, but just does being that close again maybe just benefit Temple coming up tomorrow?
I think so. I think that to me is a big part of it, right? They've been there before. They've gone in. And one thing that Coach Rhule does a great job of is he gets his guys ready to play mentally and emotionally, right? He gets that chip on their shoulder. He gets them revved up. He gets them angry. He gets them dialed in. And Matt's always done a great job of that. And I think that's something that going into the game tomorrow, he's really going to build up, right? Hey, you guys lost last year. You missed an opportunity. Let's not have that happen again. It's going to be a really good football game. If Temple can stop the offense, they can stop Navy's run game or slow them down enough, they're going to move the ball. They're going to score some points. But, like I said, that Navy offense is a buzzsaw right now.
I don't think he's leaving Matt Rhule. I know that some people have some apprehension that he's going to take another job come this offseason. I just don't see a job open right now that he would take. And I'm not naive. I think there's one day that he would eventually leave, and I'm okay if he does that because he deserves it. You know Matt very well. He brought you in to Temple. Give me the argument why you think Matt Rhule won't be leaving Temple anytime soon. I
think it's family. And that goes twofold. I think it's his own immediate family, his wife and kids. I think they're really comfortable. They love the city. They love Philly. I think he's happy where he is. And the other thing, too, is that Matt's an emotional guy, and he's invested. And I think that he believes in this team. He believes in the university. He enjoys coaching there. Matt's a guy, he was a walk-on at Penn State. He's always had a chip on his shoulder. I think that he just kind of fits there. I agree with you. At some point, I do think he's going to go. He's a good football coach, and somebody's going to come calling at one of these big shows, and it'll happen. I don't know. Again, I don't know if it's this year. It's a crazy business. Obviously, if he does take one, he's going to do it for the right reasons.
You just know him so well. What was his long-term plan? Because we always hear this long-term plan, winning championships at Temple, and you possibly could see that come to fruition this upcoming weekend if they are able to beat Navy tomorrow.
Well, I honestly, man, I believe that he had a plan to stay there and turn that program around and win championships. I mean, look, every time that we had talked, even when, as I went into Temple with him, I mean, he told me, like, I want to be here. This is where I want to stay. This is where I want to raise my family. I want to turn this program around. I love it here. So those were all the things that I heard. Again, at the same time, if that giant, Penn State's not going to open up. But, right, if something like that shows up, Notre Dame, Oregon, those are jobs that are one's open, one may be open. Those are jobs that would be tough to turn down. But at the same time, Matt's a different cat, so he may stick around. But at the same time, it's a tough decision. Coaching is a hard profession, and you've got to take advantage of your opportunities when you get them. And so I like I said before, man, I would never fault him if he decided to go, especially if it was for, one of those big Power 5 type schools.
No, I agree with you. You got to give something, and then you can leave, and he definitely gave something to Temple University. Brandon Noble, before we let you run, I got one NFL question for you. Fletcher Cox, there's been two sides of this argument. One side of it has been, okay, his sack numbers aren't there. He's having a down year. The other side of the argument is he's still being a very darn good player in the National Football League. What do you see out of Fletcher Cox this year?
Well, I think, look, that's a tough position to play. And sack numbers can be deceiving sometimes, And he's disruptive. He can still be a force in the middle. He's not having the production that he had. I don't buy into it because he doesn't play like an Albert Haynesworth, right? That's kind of what I've heard on the radio, right? People started talking about his numbers being down and he got paid and those types of things. Like, I watched that happen with Albert Haynesworth in Washington, his effort was never there. He didn't want to play football. He got paid. Fletcher still plays hard. And I think he's just having one of those years where, look, man, when you've got one guy there, Brandon Graham's having success, but they're double-teaming Fletcher Cox in the middle. Sometimes your own success can be, an enemy as you move forward. So he's disruptive. He's big. I think, to me, the one thing, if I had to say it from watching, he's kind of limited in his pass rush repertoire, his pitches. So he's kind of more of a power rusher, collapse the pocket. He doesn't seem to have a lot of wiggle or moves or, hand type stuff that maybe he should start developing. And that's just a knock. The guy's a great football player, and his numbers are down. And it happens sometimes like that. That's it. Here's a great way to put it is this. When a sack in the quarterback is one of the hardest things to do in sports because everything has to work and you have to beat the guy in front of you. You may rush the passer 600-700 times over the course of an NFL season. If you get 10 sacks, that's a great year, right? And imagine being a baseball player and having 700 at-bats and only hitting the ball 10 times, right? That's hard.
Wow.
So it's like I said, man, he's a good football player. He's just not having a great numbers year.
But let me ask you one more thing, just because you brought up Albert Haynesworth. You're right. Fletcher Cox is still a diligent player. He's trying his best, and he's getting double-teamed now. He just got to find a way to fight through that. When that Albert Haynesworth situation was going on and he got a contract and he was just dogging it, does someone in the locker room approach Albert Haynesworth, or do they just let that go on?
Well, guys don't usually mess with other guys about money, but I do think personality. I don't know Albert. I was gone. I was not in Washington when he was there. But I don't think he was the kind of guy that was approachable, to be completely honest with you. But no, there needs to be a guy that steps up and says, "Hey, you got to pull your weight." Whether sometimes it's got to be the coach, sometimes it's another guy in the locker room. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's you usually don't want that. But again, there's a lot of money to invest in a defensive tackle. Again, like I said, man, he's just not having a great numbers year. But he plays hard and he does the things that they want him to do. He's just not finishing.
Brandon, always appreciate talking football with you. Love your football insight. Thanks so much. Have a good weekend.
No problem, Zach. You too, bud.
Thanks so much. There's Brandon Noble joining us on the Zach Gelb Show, Fox Sports 920, The Jersey. We got to take a quick break. When we get back, it's everyone's favorite time of the show. NFL picks next on the Zach Gelb Show.